Welcome to episode 134 of the Business Development Podcast. And on today's expert guest interview, we are bringing you Shawn Sooley all the way from Newfoundland. We are getting a 101 on how to better do business with Atlantic Canada. Stick with us. You are not going to want to miss this.
The great Mark Cuban once said, "Business happens over years and years. Value is measured in the total upside of a business relationship, not by how much you squeezed out in any one deal." And we couldn't agree more. This is the Business Development Podcast, based in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, and broadcasting to the world. You'll get expert business development advice, tips and experiences, and you'll hear interviews with business owners, CEOs, and business development reps. You'll get actionable advice on how to grow business. Brought to you by Capital Business Development, capitalbd.ca. Let's do it. Welcome to the Business Development Podcast. And now your expert host, Kelly Kennedy.
Welcome to episode 134 of the Business Development Podcast. Today we have an expert guest from Newfoundland, Canada. We are bringing you Shawn Sooley. Shawn stands at the helm as the CEO of Shield Group of Companies, headquartered in the picturesque locale of Mount Pearl, Newfoundland, Canada. His journey from the trades to the executive suite exemplifies his adaptability and unyielding determination. With roots deeply entrenched in heat and frost insulation, Shawn's trajectory expanded to encompass the diverse realms of rope access and scaffolding, showcasing his versatility and commitment to continual growth. As the leader of the Shield Group of Companies, Shawn's leadership ethos is defined by a profound belief in the power of collaboration. He champions a culture where individual excellence is celebrated, but recognizes that the collective effort of his team is the driving force behind the company's success. Under his guidance, Shield Group fosters an environment of mutual respect and achievement, where every member is valued for their contributions. In the dynamic landscape of business, Shawn's story serves as a beacon of inspiration, reminding us that with a steadfast, we can do anything mindset and a supportive team by our side, we can surmount any challenge. As CEO, Shawn epitomizes the fusion of individual ambition and collective endeavor, propelling Shield Group of Companies to new heights while inspiring others to believe in the limitless possibilities of collaborative leadership. Shawn, it's an honor to have you on our stage today.
Thanks, man. Really appreciate it. Really happy to be here.
It is awesome to have you here, and I'm really, really excited. We're going to get into it later in today's show, but to have an Atlantic Canada perspective on business. And we have a worldwide audience right now. And Shawn, you don't notice, but you have a little bit of an accent that is very much Canadian. It is very much Canadian. You are in Newfoundland with a Newfoundlander accent. And so anybody listening, he is very much Canadian. He is from Newfoundland.
Yeah. We speak a little different over here.
Don't worry. It's basically a second language in Alberta.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yes, absolutely.
Shawn, it's an honor to have you. Take us back to the beginning. Who is Shawn Sooley?
Well, I mean, I grew up here in Newfoundland, in St. John's. Newfoundland has always been, for me, a bit of an outside entity to Canada, and the rest of the world, really. As late as the mid 2000s, like I remember feeling very much like Newfoundland is not, it's just not the same. And like that translates crazy amounts into the business world, but growing up here, limited opportunity for a really long time. Kind of made it a bit confusing, I suppose, to try to find out what you want to do. What do you want to be when you grow up?
Sure.
And that's kind of what drove me to really push and look and dig. And I just got that drive that I had to figure it out, but it made it really difficult. So like there were some learning curves there, and there's a bit of a disconnect, like I said, from the rest of the world. So opportunity being limited, you kind of pick and choose something, you just grab onto it, and then you start working towards seeing where it goes, I guess. But Newfoundland off and on had, ups and downs in the economic sense. Oil and gas kind of picked up pretty good here. We had a really good run with the Hibernia platform being built, and some of the other industrial projects going on, but very few compared to, say, Alberta. So
Yeah.
it made it really hard. Like, I know, in the Western provinces, I spent about a year out there living when I got out of high school. Moved out there with my brother, and I got some friends out there that kind of give me the perspective. When you live in places like Alberta, it's easy to find a path. A lot of guys, they get into farming right away because that's what their dad did, and their dad's dad did, and their grandfathers, just generation upon generation. It's just what they did. So that's just what they had the passion for. And, you get a lot of oil patch guys out there that, it's just a clear path. They got a strong back, and they don't mind working long hours, and they get into the patch, and that's their heading. And, the oil patch is incredible because there's just so many places to go once you get into the oil patch. You just need to get your foot through the door. And back when I headed out there in 2008, 2007, 2008, just before it really took a downturn, you could get in and kind of get a feel for what happens and easily find a path to a place that you really enjoyed being. And that does, like, those types of things just weren't available over here. And I mean, the education system is not built for helping you find your path in life, So growing up in Newfoundland, I guess, like from the very beginnings, it was a bit difficult to kind of to figure out, who I was and where I wanted to go. And I guess moving out to Alberta and seeing the industrial world and realizing how much opportunity is actually out there in Alberta made it really easy for when I came back to understand that, that same potential is back here, but like just not as obvious. It's not as abundant. And as long as you have the drive and the willingness to dig and really push, there's the same opportunities, just not as many. So that's kind of what happened. I went out west, and we had that little downturn in the oil industry there. I came home, started down the path of kind of figuring it out back here. Got into the heat and frost insulation trade, and that was actually meant to be a really short-served thing. I didn't intend to, start in as a heat and frost insulator as an apprentice, and then turn that into a manufacturing business and a construction business. The intention was to start and just get enough time in the field to kind of follow my father's trajectory there with occupational health and safety. Dad was an OH&S guy for a time. He did some OH&S training and stuff like that on his own, and I thought that was a great idea. Figured that might be a good business opportunity. I've always wanted to do my own thing, finding that path was always to, okay, what am I going to do for me? Where am I going to go, and what am I going to do as a business person? And that was the intention. So just finding a path to get there, because I didn't care what I did. I just knew that I wasn't going to do it for somebody else.
Yeah.
So going out west, coming home, kind of figuring out that path, trying to get into the OH&S world through heat and frost insulation, kind of changed my outlook on things, because once I got into the field, it's like, wow, there's not a lot of safety people. You got an awful lot of trades guys and girls out there, but not so many occupational health safety guys and girls for hundreds of employees on a site. You've got a couple of OH&S people. So maybe not. And insulation was really good money. It did really good by me. I did quite well while I was in the trades world. Always just chased the bigger jobs. And from there, I just started noticing how many opportunities there were in Atlantic Canada, but specifically in Newfoundland, because we're just so reliant on the outside world. Everything comes here. You get when it comes to the industrial trades, you're watching things being built from the ground up. And it's just like, man, where does this thing come from? What do you mean it comes from Quebec? Why is it coming from Quebec? Why is it coming from Ontario? Why are we bringing this thing in from Saskatchewan? What? That's a world away. What are we doing? Yeah. Why are we doing that? Why can't we do it here? And all the things that I was told right from early on, none of them turned out to be true. They were all, they were just all assumptions. And
Yeah.
you know, at the point when I said, you know what, like I've just, I had some opportunities. I got out of the field. I went into kind of took on some management positions in around 2017. Came out of the field and started in on the administrative and on the management side. And I really then started to see like, okay, wow, those opportunities are legit. And some people do really take the shot when they have it. And that drove me to dig in a little further. And it got to the point where I still couldn't really figure out and pinpoint exactly what I wanted to do. Now I know, like I've had in my mind to do what I'm doing now for some time, and some of the stuff anyway, and then some of the stuff that I'm doing right now kind of just came as a spin-off or out of necessity. But like it really drove me to figure out like how is it, what was really slowing me down was more so like, how do you do it, not from a well what do you do perspective, but like how do you do it. Everyone thinks that there's this big secret out there that, okay, well, unless you go to university, all these secretive processes are in place, and if you don't do them, then somebody's going to come, this magical entity is going to come from the government or something, and they're going to put the hammer down, and you're going to get you're going to go bankrupt because they're going to take everything from. It doesn't work like that, man. Like people, they want you to be in business. The system wants you to be in business, and I just didn't get that. So like I take the mentality of, okay, well, I want to do something, I just do it. Well, then if I miss a regulation, or I miss, like a regulatory body, or I miss, something that I had to register for, or, a license that I need to have for something. Oh, sorry, I missed it. I didn't know you didn't put up a billboard. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sure. Maybe I'll pay a penalty, or maybe I don't know, I'll fill out the registration now. I don't know, but you just do it. And I didn't realize that. But once I kind of understood that, then it became very easy, but I didn't know exactly how or what. So I kind of dabbled in the business development space for a bit there. I just kind of put it out. Like it took a really short period of time for that to go on the back burner. But I just said, you know what, I had a piece of advice from a really good friend of mine that I met throughout, he's one of those guys that we don't speak a whole lot. I don't get to catch up with him very often because he's also an entrepreneur and he's really busy all the time. Super high energy, great guy. His name is Chuck McCarthy. He does a lot of coatings work. He's into the NACE inspection world. And he just said, man, like, you know what? Nobody is going to listen to you but you. So like, why don't you go out and do what you do best? But instead of doing it for somebody, do it for as many people that will take you on. Just, go out, incorporate a business.
Yeah.
It's not very hard. It's a couple of $100 at the registry office, man. Just do it. So I did. And that kind of spun into that really, I just taking that first step, just taking that leap and going down that path, that kicked it all off. And everything since has just been like dominoes. Everything just falls, And that's kind of the backstory really of how the business or the group of companies started. From there, I had a really, really great partner early on, right in around, about say 6 months pre-COVID. I was doing the BD thing, and I had kind of solidified some agreements with a really, really great product out of New Zealand that was in the infection control world. And that kicked off the real rocket ship that pushed the businesses all ahead early on. I solidified some agreements with them, did a lot of really close work with them. And when COVID came about, it was about 6 months ish after I had solidified those agreements. And I had been working a little bit with my business partner, or my old business partner, for some other things, like the things that we're doing right now. Like we were working on a business plan for like our manufactured products that we make right now. We were looking to do a couple of things together, and then when the real worst of it kind of came about, from not really, not the worst of COVID, but like the worst of the fear came when we knew it was coming. I kind of, I went to my old partner, Steve, who's still, one of my closest friends. And I said, man, like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, I know what I'm doing to a point, but like, man, I don't know how to manage something of this size. Like, this is
Yeah.
huge. He's like, what do you mean? Like, I was like, man, this is coming down the tube. Like, I know we're doing these other things, but like, put those on the back burner. You jump in with me here. Let's do this together. Like, I'm not going to be able to manage all this on my own. Let's do it together. And we did. We started in, man, and it was a wild relationship. It was amazing. We worked so well together. It was like me and Steve were like brothers. We're still really close, like I said. There was a shelf life on the business relationship anyway. He committed to coming on and helping me out through that business with, through COVID, and through the infection control business that was supposed to be something different, but then turned into a totally different animal during COVID. He came on, helped me out with that, and he said, like, look, man, like, I'm not looking to get into business where we've got a bunch of HR heavy stuff, because like, I'm business side. I know who's going to get the rough end of the HR deal if we got a lot of people. I was like, yeah, fair enough. So he said, like, look, when it gets to the point where I'm just handling stuff that I don't like doing, that's when I'm done, and you got to be okay with it. And I said, yeah, man, sure, whatever. That's fine with me. So like, it kind of got to that point a little over a year, maybe a year and a bit ago. And well, it really started like a year and a half ago. He's like, man, like this isn't fun anymore. So yeah, we went separate ways on that. He kind of helps if I have any kind of questions or I need anything. Like, he's always just a phone call away. And it worked out really well. He set up everything that we needed set up from an administrative perspective, because that's something that I wouldn't have been able to do. Got all of our systems in place digitally, made sure that we were connected really well, and like, just set us up really well for long term. Like, there's not much that we need to change internally. So he did really well on that side, and that gave us a really good start, and it allowed me to focus on the operations. So after we started to kind of whittle down a little bit on how busy we were with ImmuShield, which was the infection control company that we had, things were just kind of running itself. Like, again, man, my team is everything. Like, they're incredible. Like, without my team, I'd be nothing. So they were kind of just handling stuff, and I never had to ask them to pick things up and run with them and take them over. They like, there's none of this, hey man, listen, you know what, we're trying to grow here, could you take this extra thing on? They're always out ahead of me every step of the way. Like, hey man, I'll handle that. You go do this thing or that thing. And communication is usually key there. So like, when they see like, okay, Shawn's struggling, he's got a lot on his plate, I'm going to do that. I'm going to take that. That's my responsibility now. They started picking things up. So that was right from the get go, even through the chaos of not knowing how to grow or not knowing what we were going to do or where we were headed really. They just knew like growth was the plan. What we were growing into, we had no heading. We did, but not like from an organizational or structural, standpoint. So they just picked stuff up, man. And if they weren't good at something, they got good at it, Kenny's my right hand. Me and Kenny have been working together for years. Like, we were both apprentices, started out in the trade basically the same time, both insulators. And soon as once I got into management or sort of supervision even, Kenny was always on my crew. Kenny was always a guy who I kept around, and I had a really high level of trust for Kenny. We always worked really well together, and it's just been like that, forever. So we've done really, really well together operationally, and he's 100%. Without Kenny, there's no way that I'd have any amount of the success that I have now. He's unreal. I mean, things like that are what really drove us to be able to take on more or less anything. When it came to, okay, it's go time to start something new. People kind of come and go a little bit in these types of situations, but once you get a bit of a footing on, okay, well, now we got a really great foundation of the people that we need here. then things start to like take a vertical climb. And it took really for the manufacturing, that was the first thing right after the infection control stuff. That kind of went from super high level of involvement on, client facing, out there, just dropping deliverables, one after another, getting it done all the time, like just completing contracts and completing obligations for clients, to, okay, now we need to do R&D. We had to figure out what we're going to do for people and how we're going to do it. So that took, honestly, we kept really quiet about what we were doing, and what we were intending to provide to the market for a good period of time. We were like probably a year and a half before commercialization when we started to, do our R&D, try to figure out how to do what we do. In between the use of, technology and the understanding that, look, it's going to cost a lot of money. It's going to take a really long time, and accepting that, with the crew that we have, that turned into another really great business. And somewhere in between there, we picked up a little bit of work here and there that required certain things. Scaffolding is something that's not as, I guess, it's not as available here as we could use, because it is a bit feast or famine. It's one of those things where you have periods where there's just not much work, and if you have too many people in the market, there's going to be some guys go under, and I think everybody realizes that. So unless you have a good system where either you have a really big market that's either national, like Safeway is another scaffolding company here. We've got a great relationship with them. We rent some gear from them from time to time when we need it. Another really good professional outfit. They do great work, great leadership here locally, and they have national accounts all across the board. And they take a little bit different of a model. They do a lot of rental and stuff. That makes sense. But like if you start off and you're starting off small and you don't have a lot of resources behind you, scaffolding is a really hard thing to get into here. Because we can't move. It's not like we can just say, okay, well, no big deal. We'll take on some work over in PEI or in New Brunswick or in Nova Scotia. Just the logistics make us not feasible, and nobody wants to leave here. Like if you got a crew that's consistent and you got to leave here and drive all the way over there, it just doesn't work. Like our industry for the most part is very heavy on the Avalon Peninsula, or at least on the eastern portion of the island. So, being able to service the whole island is one thing, but then to go off the island it's very difficult if you're a smaller setup. So you kind of have to have the resources and the availability to go a bit bigger and have some other things behind you to get started. That took a little bit of time too. So the availability in the market wasn't there. We needed some scaffolding. It was difficult to figure out how we were going to achieve what we needed. And I said, okay, well, and Steve was still with us at that point. Like, we need like 20 grand max worth of scaffolding material to do this little job that we have. We've got a scaffolder on staff helping us out anyway. Yeah. So like one way or another, we're buying some scaffolding material. Do we bring in some tractor trailers full of it, or do we just bring in what we need and probably chew up the profit on this little project that we're doing? So we started a scaffolding company.
Shawn, I want to pause you there for a second, because we're obviously getting into the story of the Shield group of companies, and I want to spend just a little more time there because we talked about this before, and you essentially started with ImmunoShield, but you started that ahead of COVID, and so like, was that just dumb luck, or did you see an opportunity?
No, I mean, I didn't know that there was going to be a pandemic by any means. I mean, like, listen, man, I swear I've been accused of it, but I did not put that bat in that tube. I didn't do it. I swear. I deny any allegations.
You couldn't have picked a better time to essentially start.
But you know what?
It's a sanitation product, correct?
Yeah. So the product that we picked up is called Zuno, and it's a product that when you apply it to a surface, it's not a chemical. It's the craziest thing. So it's not a chemical. It's extremely safe. It's child safe, pet safe. I've drank the stuff out of, just to be like, because we've had some people, you always get the naysayers, and it's like, is it really that safe? Yes, it is. How do you know? Because I understand the science. Yeah, but like, how do you really know? Okay, all right, I'm done with this. Here, watch. And you drink a bit, That's how I know. Because I did that like 6 weeks ago and I still don't have web feet. That's how I know. So it's a really great product. You when you apply it appropriately, it's good for 30 days, and it's a mechanical kill, not a chemical kill. So basically, what happens is the cell membrane of a pathogen like a virus, such as the coronavirus, becomes ruptured when it comes in contact with the silica strain that's in this material. That once dry, it covalently bonds to the surface, any surface. And again, it's a positively charged silica strain that's going to attract a gram-negative pathogen. So basically, it draws pathogens in, pokes it with a needle like a balloon, a needle pop on a balloon, and that works really well. I understood the science behind that early on. And again, like I'm an insulator. I just when I see something that has potential, I dig in and like I become obsessed with it until I find a way to drag the value out. So I saw that, again, a friend of mine who actually the guy who lined me and Steve up together was involved with bringing that product into Canada. And, he kind of gave us the opportunity to look at it and see if we could make something of it. And I understood the science behind it. I saw the value in it, and I said, you know what, man, like there's a lot of stuff that's just gross. Like planes.
Yeah.
Planes are just gross. I've been in camps, I've seen, oil rigs and boats, man, like all the ventilation is connected. People are sick all the time. Like camp flu is the worst. You hear a guy cough, a couple of doors down in your camp room, like, oh God, another flu. It's minus 40 outside right now. I don't need another flu, man. Like, so, it's well known that, that's the killer of productivity right there, man. A sick crew. If you've got, and it doesn't matter if your crew is on a boat, on an oil rig, in a camp. If your crew is sick, they're not putting out, man. They're just not putting out. Yeah. And on top of that, they're not coming to work. So like, camp flu sucks, boat flu sucks. So, we had some early on before COVID was even a thing. We had some success with the marine world because influenza is a problem on vessels, so we had some success there. And because of that, we were well known to ExxonMobil right away when COVID was on the way down the tube. They picked up our service right away. And I mean, like our service was great. Like it's not just, hey, we're just going to come out and spray this stuff around. And we had exclusive right to that product. So like nobody could get it. You couldn't buy it. You couldn't spray it. You could not get it inside of Atlantic Canada unless you came through us.
Yeah.
I had to, another one of my mentors in the industry he built some agreements that were airtight that really helped us out to make sure that nobody else could get it. And then when COVID came down the tube, nobody else could get it. So we sprayed the stuff, but we also did our due diligence. We made sure we knew how to apply the stuff. We made sure that we knew how to verify its efficacy. And then we made sure that we knew how to report it back to our clients to give value so that they could go forward saying, hey, listen, we've done our due diligence. Here's our outbreak prevention plan. This is a part of it. This is the plan. You're going to take these steps when you're in our asset or when you're on our asset or when you're in our camp or wherever. And not only that, here's what we've done. And here's the adenosine triphosphate reporting or testing in this comprehensive report that shows the entire boat, the entire camp. It's all good. It's clean. And we did a lot of that stuff. So like we took what we had and we turned it into an extreme value add for anybody that had an asset that couldn't stop during COVID.
Wow. It's like to me, it seems like just the right place, right time kind of product. Like it's
it was.
Sometimes you wonder if the timing almost seems a little magical. Hey,
it was. But like I said, I mean, we had some success in the marine world there right away before COVID. Like before anyone knew what. No one could dream that this new coronavirus was going to cause a global pandemic when we started working with the marine world here. And I mean, that was turning into success, but I saw it and I said, you know what, man, like there's value here. And like,
totally,
the average person would look at it and say, you know what, this has value in the healthcare system. This has value in the school systems, daycares, seniors complexes. But when I think about these things, it's like, okay, but who has money? Who
Mm-hmm.
who has the desire to use a product like this to increase productivity, or
Yes.
to increase their their production, or their decrease their sick time and leave time? And I know the industrial world. That's my sandbox.
Yeah.
Industrial, marine, oil and gas. Like I know that world. I know what makes it tick. I know how it operates, and everything is right now. Let's get it done. This thing is urgent. We have a timeline. We have a budget. We can't do this. We have to do this. We can't do that. And it's all very right now, and it has to be that way all the time. So you have to keep moving. You can't stop.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
when it comes to something that if you can prove it, if it's quantifiable and tangible, and you can put it in their hand and say, hey, look, I've got something that's going to make your life a lot easier, and your bottom line is going to reflect this value add, they will pick it up. And I know that. So that's what I did. I said, okay, well, you know what? I'm going to take the chance on this. Because I mean, I didn't just have some paper signed and say, hey, if I do it, I do it. If I don't, I don't. But they gave me a commitment, and I also made a commitment that I was going to make sure that I purchased a fair quantity of this material every quarter. So I had a pretty good confidence level that I could make something of it. Now, where and how, wasn't exactly sure, but I knew I had a few lines, and if I could show the value, that people would buy in, and they did. So that it wasn't really and I mean, there were other things too. Like, I mean, at that time with the business development piece that I was doing, I was working with a couple of other products that I believed in, products and services, and either one of those could have also blown up, and probably will sooner or later. Now, I got way too busy with what we were doing with ImmuShield and with Zuno to continue on doing the other things. But it was one of those things where I people say all the time that and it's a well-known statement. People say, oh yeah, you got lucky on this thing, you got lucky on that thing. It's funny that me and a lot of others that I know that are kind of in the same kind of world that I'm in, the harder we work, the luckier we get.
That's right.
It's funny how that works,
I hate it when people say you got lucky, because they didn't see the sleepless nights, the full days of work that led into a 5:00 a.m. start the next day, just so you can get some work done before the day actually starts. Business is hard work. And if you want to be successful, there's no magic bullet. No. The magic bullet is hard work.
There is no way around it, man. Like, I spent, after we bought our place in Donovan's here, and I wasn't working out of home anymore. It's when it started becoming really evident how much I was putting in on a daily basis, because I was here every night until midnight, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning, and then back at it again, 8, 9 o'clock in the morning at the latest.
Yeah.
And it's just, it takes a real toll on you, but you reap what you sow, so if you're going to put it in early on and you're going to plant those seeds, then you're going to get a good harvest, so we had, I had no choice. I knew what I wanted to do, and there was really only one way to do it. I'm not a tech guru. I had an issue trying to get on here today to talk with you. I was delayed, just because I didn't know how to log in. So that's off the table.
And I would argue nobody knows this, but you are going through a wicked snowstorm in Atlantic Canada right now. Honest to God, I'm surprised you even went into this.
Oh man,
Shawn, when we got on today, he's like, Kelly, look at this. He just Shawn his camera out the window. You can't even see anything. It's a blizzard.
yeah, it's not nice outside, man. But it is what it is, man. If, in all honesty, I mean, I told, first thing this morning, we have a certain time when our managers will put out an announcement. Okay, we're coming to work, or we're not coming to work. That was 6 o'clock this morning ish. But I mean, if and again, I'll leave it to Kenny and Kenny and Liz and Matt to say, okay, you know what? No, this isn't a good day to be coming to work, or yeah, we got to go to work today. So I mean, if those guys say, yep, it's good to go, then we're going. And realistically, I have a 4-wheel drive with very large tires and a lift kit, because if I want to go to work, I'm going to go to work.
Yeah. It's funny too, because like I also drive a truck, and my choice to pick a truck, like I'm in business development, but I picked a truck for that very same reason.
Yep.
The reality is, if I got to be in a meeting, I'm going to be there, whether it's a blizzard or not. And that's just Canadian.
Yeah. Well, man, I mean, when it really comes down to, the reality of doing business, like people just don't care. My inconvenience does not negate my obligations.
Yes.
So,
agreed.
You know what? If I want to be the guy that takes a project on, or if I want to be a guy that, that wins the award for whatever bid, I kind of got to be Johnny on the spot. You've got to be out in front. And I mean, even with the BD stuff that, I did before, and, I still consistently do BD. That's what I like BD. So, I mean, I'm always going to have my hand in the business development side of things. But I mean, like, if you're not the first, the fastest, the best, well, then you're last.
Yeah. Yeah.
So either you're willing to go that extra mile or you're not.
That's right. That's right. And it's obvious too, because you've grown this business in a very short period of time.
Yeah.
You've done what takes most companies, I think, probably 10 to 15 years, and you've done it in 5, which is pretty wild. And, like I look at the jumps, like you started off, essentially with a product to help sanitize, ships and whatever else that you guys are doing. And then you went into manufacturing, which is a pretty wild jump, but you also came from that background. So you understood what it is you were building. So it wouldn't have been as big of a leap as others might think, just considering you'd already come from that insulation and covers background.
Advanced manufacturing, it doesn't matter what you're doing. Advanced manufacturing costs a ton of money. It takes a really long time, and it takes a big team to do it right. And I mean, when I say a big team, I mean a big team for me. It's not a big team for, the Coca-Colas of the world or the Fords of the world. But for me, it takes a lot of people that have a really high level of dedication and individually a certain skill set that become a machine in itself. If you don't have that right team, and you don't all have the same values and goals, you are not going to succeed unless you have some magic ticket that I don't know about. The team is everything. So, I mean, most of our processes, I don't even know how to do a lot of this stuff here. Sure. And I don't care to, because I mean, my team, I trust my team. My team, if I ask for something, unless it's unrealistic and they quickly throw it back and say, hey man, listen, whoa, calm down here. I know that it's going to get done, and it's going to get done really well. And when it comes to advanced manufacturing, you have to have that. You have to have that foundation of a reliable team that have the same goals and interests that you have. And we have that. And that's what allowed us to go to where we are as fast as we did. And honestly, man, it was 5 years ish, give or take, since we really kicked it all off. But man, most of our progress really happened within the last year and a bit ish. We the team, once when Steve said, okay, you know what, man, let's just call that it for me. HR is a nightmare. I'm spending more time, on the phone talking about cell phones and stuff that I really don't want to be dealing with. It's time for me to move on to the next chapter. And I said, okay, I've really got to focus in even more now on the team, because we lost, I lost a huge chunk of support when Steve was, tapping out and nope, that's all the fun I've had. That's all the fun for me. So, with Kenny's help, we just kind of looked at it and said, okay, what do we need to get where we're going? Fast. And, luckily enough, my better half, Elizabeth, she's a BD person, and she's a really, really good BD person. but she's also super organized, and she's as invested into this as myself and Kenny. And she came on board to help us out because I needed BD help. I just didn't have the time to do it myself.
Sure.
And I also needed other help, like administrative help. So she came on board, and like she's realistically the glue that holds our entire team together, because she does not take BS, man. Like there's like, if we're not on our game, we know about it right away. Like right
Yeah.
away.
I got one of those
Oh
too.
yeah. Yeah, listen, man, she doesn't mess around. She does not mess around. Like stuff gets done over here, and like we don't drop the ball on very much. I mean, everybody drops the ball
Yeah.
from time to time, but we don't drop
We
the
do
ball very much at all, because she knows we're capable, and she knows that we know what we're doing, but she reminds us that we have to do it quite frequently, on
Yeah.
top of, making sure that she also has her part played, and like I said, the team is awesome. Like Kenny's incredible. Kenny legitimately runs everything here, because I mean, like, I could be absolutely anywhere in the world at any time. I mean, I could turn around tomorrow and I could be in, I could be in Guyana for whatever reason next week, if something popped off, or I could be in, I don't know, man, Brazil, or I have no idea, anywhere really. Like, it's just the way my life works. And
Sure.
Kenny is really good as well. And then he takes care of primarily the manufacturing side. And again, Kenny's an insulator, man, but like Kenny's learned how to go to great lengths with procurement. He's learned how to go to great lengths with 3D design. He's learned how to do basically anything that you need to run our business. And he takes care of all of that. And he also oversees the scaffolding side with Matt, who takes care of our scaffolding division. He's the driving force behind Shield Access, which is our rapidly growing scaffolding division. And those guys they keep it all together. They row the boat in the same direction, and there's just no stopping us. It's like, effectively getting in our way is like getting in the way of a freight train at this point. It's incredible. And it's because of those guys. Like the weight that we have is from the collective, because we're all rowing in the same direction, and everybody legitimately cares about everybody else on this team. I hear people talk all the time about, oh yeah, this company is like a family, and you see all the memes and, the TikToks that make fun of that. And like, it's legit here. It's legit. Like there's no two ways about it. If you have an issue here, inside or outside of work, I mentioned it to you earlier, man, anybody inside of this company could go to anybody, and not just this, like anybody inside of these companies, the group in total, any one person in any one of the companies could go to any other person inside of any of the other companies and say, hey, I need help. Can you help me? And it could be inside or outside of work. And they would jump on it immediately. And that makes a huge difference. And we've been striving for that for quite some time. And we had people here that just didn't fit that bill, and, people came and went, but we have a really strong team here now. And, like anybody else, like, and like any, family will say, like, there's a level of dysfunction no matter what you do. But because everyone legitimately cares about each other and about the business, I mean, it's just, it works. It works really well. And every now and again, it doesn't work. And then as soon as we see that it doesn't work, everybody stops. Okay, how do we make it work? Do we work harder? Do we work longer? Do we have to redo something? Do we have, it doesn't matter what it is, but it gets done. And it's because everybody really cares, and we put the right people in the right places. And I don't micromanage anybody. Nobody here micromanages. You do your job, and if you mess up, you're not accountable, because ultimately the buck stops with me anyway. So like, if you mess up, that was my fault. Somebody didn't get the tools to do what they needed to do. So it's me. It's on me. It's my fault. So like, I don't hold anybody accountable. So everybody here, no one is afraid to give it a go, whatever it is. Everybody knows here, okay, well, I don't really know what I'm doing, but I'll give it a shot. So that encourages people to just do their job. And if they don't do their job well enough, whatever, someone will help them, and figure out why their job is not the way it should, or their work is not the way it should be, and no reprimand for it. It's just, okay, well, this shouldn't be this way. It should be this way or that. So let's figure out how to get you there. So that encourages them to do their job. But on top of that, it also encourages people to try to do more. Okay, well, hey, I can help out over here. I know this is my job, but I can do this with you. I can help out with that, because what's the worst that can happen? You screw it up.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Sure.
I agree completely. I'm a huge fan of family values in business, and I'm sure I always call it the F word, because I definitely get that kind of same feedback too. Where people are like, but you know what? I've worked in enough organizations, and I think with smaller to medium-sized organizations, it can work really well. I'll be the first to say that those people tend to work harder. They're driven towards the same goal. Like you said, they're on a freight train going the same direction, and they'll put in the extra effort to make sure it's done right. I don't see what's necessarily wrong with that. I do think maybe like at a certain size of organization, it gets frowned upon because every single area can work like its own clique. And so I think that's where it doesn't work as well as if you got this like gigantic corporation. But I think for most mediums to small sized organizations, it works just fine. And I think it should be encouraged, not discouraged.
Even with the smaller organizations, like it didn't just happen overnight. Like that it's not something that just happened here, as we grew, people started to silo off. There were some issues, and I held really steady on the fact that, like, look, if you work for me, your personal issues matter to me.
Yeah.
If you're not happy for whatever reason, or you're not content, then whether it be a work problem or a at-home problem or whatever, if there's something that I can do to help, I'm doing it. If there's something here that any of the management can do to help, we're going to do it. If the business itself can do something to help, we're going to do it. And it's a give and take system. I mean, people don't look at employment the way that they used to, and rightfully so, because there was a time when, if you had a job, then, the employer or the company has already done more for you than you're doing for them, because you're lucky enough to have a job. I don't look at any of it the same anymore. Look, you're with us or you're not, and either is fine. But if you're with us, then you don't have a job here. You're just with us. We have something that we're trying to achieve.
Yeah.
You want to do that with us? And if so, awesome. And I really appreciate, and all the rest of the team from bottom to top here, everybody really appreciates the fact that people here want to help.
Yeah.
And that's what makes the difference. And it's not about you don't have a job. You have employment. You're getting a paycheck, but it's because you got to live, and things are expensive, and they're getting more expensive. So you need a paycheck, but it's not about that. It's not a you come here in turn for what you get come Thursday on your pay stub. It's about, hey, listen, we're doing this thing. Do you want to be a part of it? We have a great atmosphere. You got to do something in your life. Yeah. So like, it's just as well to come and do it here, because, ultimately it's a good atmosphere. We really appreciate people. We want people to be happy. And it's really fulfilling when you have that environment where you feel like you're a part of something and something has been accomplished. Like, it's really fulfilling to people. And that's really what makes the difference. People want to be a part of that. And they, and I want people to be a part of that. It's not a gimmick or a trick to get people to boost the levels of, profitability here. And ultimately, I committed a long time ago that profitability is not my main process, or not my main priority. My main priority here, like I have even my whole life, I have a tiered system for priorities. My family and kids come before anything else, and they are my main priority. After that, like very close, like touching, are the people that I work with in my extended work family. So like their well-being is far more important than what it looks like at the end of the year financially.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And like that, and in turn, it's a happy bonus that's what creates success.
Yeah.
Because I don't need to worry about the profitability anymore. I'm worried about them. They're worried about the profitability.
Yeah.
They want success here.
Well, and you don't have a business without the people in it. Like, the reality is none of it matters if they're not happy and coming to work and doing the job they need to be doing. And so that's why I think this shift has to be on your people. One of the things, Shawn, that I really wanted to spend some time with you here today on is, like I said, you're my first Atlantic Canada guest. And I know we talked about this when we kind of had our initial meeting, but I think that
Yeah.
there's a misconception from the West, from Western Canada,
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
business in Newfoundland. And one of the goals that I was really hoping for from this interview with you was, how does the West better work with Eastern Canada, Atlantic provinces specifically? Because I think I've seen them try, and it's very hard to do. And it's not hard to do. It's just they don't know how to do it.
Yep.
Right?
There are so many little intricacies that just aren't understood. And a lot of them are cultural.
Absolutely. And so I was hoping you could spend some time today on, on helping us Western provinces work better with our Eastern neighbors.
You know what? That's something that, like, I love that, because I mean, we still have limited resources here. We do, and bigger projects especially, we need some outside help and expertise in building things. We've got a lot of great companies here that are willing to take on big projects, both big and small. But there's a lot of misunderstandings, and there's a lot of things that happen here that aren't understood because you don't understand. Like the folks from outside of Atlantic Canada, but specifically Newfoundland, don't understand the history. And I mentioned it earlier that Newfoundland has been extremely feast or famine in terms of industrial work, and even like the larger commercial stuff. It's very feast or famine. It's not a huge population, so infrastructure requirements are not nearly as for geographic region like the island of Newfoundland. I mean, it's a relatively big space, but not a lot of people, so we don't need as much infrastructure as you would need in Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, Ontario. So that means that there's not a whole lot of commercial work going on here. You don't see high rises here. You don't see, a lot of hospitals and a lot of, there's a few, but there's not a lot.
Yeah.
There's just not as much infrastructure. So the work is less abundant. So when you have a project that comes up, there are a lot of things that play into either the success or the struggle of a project. And a lot of it comes back to the cultural issues. Environmental issues are obviously also really, really huge. Newfoundland is just not an easy place to do business, period. Inside Newfoundland specifically, it's a well-known fact amongst the business community. If you can do business in Newfoundland, you can do business anywhere in the world. You have a lot of things playing against you here. And again, those things like lack of, or the smaller population size and client base, the inherent poor weather year round, really. We've got, we have summer, which is good for construction. That 4 days that we get a year, that's fun. It's great working those 4 days a year that we have decent weather. But I mean, springtime is a bit rough depending on where we're to. Winter is really hard, and fall is, it's not as bad as winter and spring, but it's still also pretty rough. So like, you got mine sites, and you got big projects like we did the Muskrat Falls project here. That was a complete catastrophe. And we had an Italian company that came here that are really well versed in building dams, and that dam did not go as planned. And again, issues with the demographic, issues with environmental, just supply chain problems because of, hey, we're an island. And not only are you working on an island, you get outside the greater St. John's area, now you're really remote. So like, yeah, we have a city, or we have a couple of cities right there that, you would think, hey, oh, well, there's a city real close. So we know that from before we've done all these projects. You might have done 100 projects in the past. And now you factor in, okay, there's a city just, 30 minutes, 40 minutes, 60 minutes from the site, or an hour from the site, or whatever. We'll get supply from the city over here. It's not the same. Mm-hmm. St. John's is not equipped the same as Halifax or Toronto. It's not. We don't have those resources that they have to support the bigger projects. we don't have a great supply chain. A lot of the stuff has to come. You might be able to order it in St. John's, but it has to come from off the island,
Yeah.
because we're not stocking things here, because we're not a hub. We're not sending things out the way that they are. Now, I mean, some things, lots of valve shops around, lots of electrical supply shops around, sure. But when it gets into the nitty gritty and the things that are a little more niche, there's not great supply. Or realistically, even the stuff that we do supply here, we don't have it in quantity the same as that you would get in Toronto or in Halifax or the bigger centers, or Vancouver or in Edmonton or Calgary or wherever.
Yeah.
So pre-planning is extremely important in Newfoundland, and not just from this is how we're going to do our job perspective. This building is going to go here, then the piping and the mechanical is going to go. No, that's all the same once it's all on site and you have an understanding of the workforce. The workforce here becomes very difficult to manage if you don't understand how they like to be managed.
Mm-hmm.
Newfoundlanders are different than the rest of Canada. I think that's a well-known fact. Like our population and demographic is a very unique set of people in a really good way most times, but it can become difficult to manage if you don't understand how the construction folks and the industrial folks like to be treated, and the way they like things done. It can become a bit of a nightmare, and not only just the individuals themselves, because the people are great people here. Everybody's extremely friendly and extremely willing to help when you need help. You ask someone to help you here, they're probably going to help you.
Yeah.
But when you start to consider that we have an aging population and the workforce is dwindling so fast everywhere in a place like Newfoundland where our population is so low.
Yeah.
And honestly, even the population we do have, the younger generations, they don't have the same ambition to be tradespeople and industrial folks the way the generations before had that drive to be out there in the field working with their hands. It's just not there. So the population is smaller anyway, and the percentage of that population that wants to be in that space is also smaller. So working with Newfoundland companies from an outside perspective, how to work with them is to work with them. Don't just say, hey, okay, we're going to partner on this thing and this is how we're going to do it. Engage early, plan, understand, and a lot of the work over here is, any of the big stuff for the most part is, either covered under, the different bodies like the CLRA and the building trades. And, you're dealing with union work then, which comes with its own set of understanding to be successful. And that understanding for the most part comes from, okay, what's my availability?
Yeah.
Because with the unions, man, you get really high quality work, but where are they getting the folks to do the work for you? Because we have a much smaller population right now. For example, we have some work going on, or, over the last couple of years, we've had some work going on. So, these tradespeople, the guys and girls that are doing the work are spread out all across Newfoundland, and it's hard to get them. So understanding that working with somebody who has an attachment to those unions and to the pots of labor outside of the unions as well, if you're not talking about union work, having access to someone who already has connection to them will make or break your job.
I see.
So getting in early is really important.
Yeah. And the importance of partnering with local companies is absolutely critical to the success of projects in Newfoundland. That's what I'm understanding here. You are not,
absolutely.
You're not going to walk into Newfoundland and just bring your company in there and get it done. It's just not going to go as you hope.
I've seen a lot of companies try on a lot of jobs, and it does not go well. It does not go well. I mean, we've worked side by side with companies from outside of Newfoundland. And you know what? Some projects go better than expected, but they never go as well as they could.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, that's what makes the difference to, okay, well, are we going to do the next phase of this project, or are we just going to call it quits? Or are we going to do another project? Or even from outside investment, oh, hey, maybe we can do this thing in Newfoundland. We saw how this job went. It wasn't pretty. Maybe we look at somewhere else.
Yeah.
So that's what matters to, the overall economy here, and then the availability of that work to the folks that would like to come here to do work.
Yeah.
So if you pre-plan, and I mean, our natural resources here are endless.
Yes.
We have so much opportunity here when it comes to natural resources. So anybody who wants to come here to go to work, they want to bring their company and their skill set and their knowledge, their experience, their expertise. Yeah, do it. Come over here. Help us get things done, but don't shoot yourself in the foot with your own confidence that you can do it on your own. It works far better if you come in here and work with the folks that already have those connections and the understandings that you need for a successful project. And those companies are available. There's a ton here.
Yeah. And that was going to be my next question was, does Newfoundland even want our help? Do they want help from the West?
Newfoundland, there's a lot of misconceptions out there. And, I would think that, a big portion of the market in Canada thinks that Newfoundland wants to do things on their own, or they don't want outside companies coming in and grabbing up our work. And I mean, like, look, we've gotten the wrong end of a lot of deals over the years. We have had a lot of potential and a lot of opportunity that's been ultimately just signed away because either we didn't know, or we were misled, or we had a misconception on how much value we had versus, outside entities. But ultimately, that's not the case. We are perfectly fine with others coming in here to help, as long as it's very collaborative.
Yes.
And I know that, Newfoundland as a whole, I mean, we have things like the Newfoundland and Labrador benefits agreements where it's like, okay, look, well, if we're going to do it with, if we're going to do this thing, then we're going to do it, but we are going to benefit as a province because we've been misled and we've had opportunity taken from us. But we have things now in place that, that allow us a little bit of an upper hand in a lot of areas. And those things, a lot of the companies that are here locally would be very, very welcoming to outside companies, or what would have otherwise been competition in other areas, coming and saying, hey, listen, why don't we would really like to do the work over here. We know that you have a better crack at it, really, because of, legislation and different things saying that, hey, listen, the Newfoundlanders need to get first consideration on this work if they have the capacity and the ability to do the work. But we'd like to help you. But I see very little of that. It's, it happens from time to time, but usually it's forced, or it's made very clear to who's coming when they express interest in taking on a project. Say, hey, listen, well, you kind of got to partner with a Newfoundland company to make this work.
Yeah.
Because you got to give the benefit to Newfoundland. But it's better. It's way better served when, when they come and say, hey, listen, we want to work with you. Not, hey, listen, we got to have a Newfoundland partner. So, hey, would you like to be it?
Sure.
It works really well because there's a huge potential here, like I said, and we also have value. Not only just in Newfoundland, like there's a lot of folks here that are really good at what they do, and there's a lot of synergies that can be found if folks from outside were willing to come over here. And I know a lot of, and even aside from the ones that do want to come here, there's a lot of companies out there that don't want to come here.
Sure.
Because, and I mean, I was at a conference just last week in Florida, and I guess an otherwise competitor, but like another scaffolding company, their representative said, we are not coming out to Newfoundland. Like, hey, we'd love to supply you with some material, but we are not coming to Newfoundland. Forget it. We're not getting on that ferry. No way. And I'm like, man, why? Like, what are you talking about? I have absolutely no problem. Like, if you think it's because I don't want you there, you're saying this because you think I don't want you over there picking up my work. I welcome fair competition in this market. I welcome it.
Well,
it's no problem at all.
Let me tell you, Shawn, I haven't met a Newfoundlander yet that I didn't like. So I think that's a good sign.
For the most part, like, I mean, the people here are relatively good people. You know, like, you know, I've been a lot of places, man. Like I've been all over, and you know, Newfoundlanders, they stack up pretty high on the list of, you know, people who are easy to get along with, and, you know, just genuinely good people.
Yeah.
But you know, again, a lot of the time, you know, I find that it's not just the people that, you know, kind of deter some of the companies that could come and do work here from coming here. I think a lot of the things that, you know, snowball up.
Yeah.
You know, they are things like, you've got, you know, well, we've got small population, not a big market. So, okay, where are we going to go and do that one project, or do we focus over here where we can get a bit of a foothold on a bigger market and take up that in Alberta, Saskatchewan? You know, there's all kinds of places across Canada where you can focus in and try to take up more market, not just one project here and there.
Yeah.
And it's sad because there's a lot more of a market here than what's realized. So that's a misconception, and people don't realize it. You need to know where to look for it. But then it gets snowballed in with okay, well, the demographic there is hard to work with sometimes. A lot of the work there, you're forced into union work. And honestly, that's another misconception. But it's two misconceptions, because, you know, yeah, it's not all the work is, you know, is mandated to be union work. A lot of it is, but not all unions are bad, depending on the trade and the skill set. I mean, there are some unions out there that I have no love for, and there are some that I think are great, amazing organizations. For example, like the UBC, the United Brotherhood of Carpenters, awesome folks, really, really great crowd. They take care of their membership really well. They have a good organizational structure. They're very progressive. They don't mind investing into their membership. They don't mind investing into their contractors. They don't mind investing into the end clients. Great organization. So to come over here, the union, like, I mean, if you're going to come over here and you're going to work under the United Brotherhood of Carpenters, man, like, that's not a disadvantage. They have the workforce.
Yeah.
They will help you every step of the way. Like, the guys that are running the show over there, I mean, like, I'm sure other people have other perspectives of what they're doing. I mean, we voluntarily recognized the United Brotherhood of Carpenters almost right away when we started our scaffolding company. I mean, those guys have been a huge, huge help to us. They've shown us incredible support. Incredible. I mean, we probably wouldn't have been able to do it without them, to be honest. Like, they're the director of organization, Paul and Mike. Mike runs the show over there, and man, those guys are incredible. I mean, if someone wants to come here and do work, the support that you can get from organizations like them, the success is just as important to them as it is to the guys doing the work and the end client. So, I mean, it's not a reason to be concerned about coming over here to do work, but I know that oftentimes it's misconstrued, and it is. But I mean, speaking from a fair amount of experience, it's not a disadvantage on that front. Again, and I mean, again, not every building trade union is the same. They're not all built equal.
Sure.
I'm not speaking for every one of them, but like those guys, if you can create partnerships with folks like that, you're in really good hands. And again, that comes back to, well, you partner with local companies, then you kind of understand who to work with and who not to work with.
Yes. So, like, to me, if you could only give one piece of advice to Western companies or companies that would like to do business in Newfoundland, I'm going to let you say it. What would that be?
Just start conversations. Ask. Pick up the phone. Hey, we have no market share in Newfoundland right now. We have no market share in Atlantic Canada. What's going on? Is there any synergies between us? Can we work together? Do you see a potential here? What could we look at, or what are the possibilities? Just start the conversation. Amazing. Pick up the phone. If you don't have a market share here, you think you have value in the industrial world, pick up the phone, call somebody over here, have a conversation with them.
Perfect. Have a conversation, look to partner. That is the way forward in Newfoundland.
Absolutely.
Shawn, take us through the Shield group of companies before we close up. We are coming to the end of our show today, but I would like you to spend a little bit of time talking about what products and services that you do offer, as well as the locations that you're willing to work in.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, when it comes to locations for work, it's a little bit scattered, I guess. I mean, the infection control stuff that we still do some of that. It's not nearly obviously as prevalent as it was. But I mean, we will do that all across Newfoundland. We do have great partners out in Nova Scotia who take care of Nova Scotia and New Brunswick if it does come up. They're happy to help us out there. But with the insulation side, so with the mechanical insulation, we have a really good partner here that helps us out. If you have a whole scope where you want insulation work and you want removable insulation covers, the stuff that we manufacture, we can do that realistically. And they're our partner. They're stretched all across Canada, and I work with them absolutely anywhere. So we can do the removable insulation stuff. You just kind of let us know where you're to, and if we got to send somebody, we send them. And not just in Newfoundland, not just in Canada. I mean, North America, South America, wherever. All we need is measurements or a 3D scan, and we can do basically anything for anywhere, and we just ship out of here. That's another misconception that absolutely drives me crazy. Our logistics is not nearly as bad as what would be expected. We can ship products, our removable insulation jackets, anywhere in the world. I mean, we ship them offshore here. We ship them to, we just made a shipment the other day to BC. We can ship things anywhere. Yeah. And then on the scaffolding front, our access company is primarily Newfoundland based right now, but we'll partner or we'll work with anybody anywhere in Canada, realistically for our access work. Our scaffolding and access company is growing in leaps and bounds right now. We've taken on some pretty big projects, and we intend to keep moving and taking on more. Big focus for us is to bundle in the installation services with our partner there to kind of create more of a holistic scope where we can give a pretty good bundle of insulation, scaffolding, and the removable insulation jackets for jobs realistically anywhere in Canada. But primarily, most of our work happens in Atlantic Canada, but we're willing to work anywhere really.
Who are your ideal customers?
We don't have an ideal customer, man. Like, we will work with anybody. Our ideal customer is someone who wants to work with us as much as we want to work with them. So if you need access, or if you need removable insulation systems or what have you, anything that we do, if you are willing to work with us and you have a really serious problem where, listen, our margin isn't going to be as high as we would like it to be, and we've got to put in a little extra work to kind of help you figure it out, we're happy to do that. We don't care. We really do encourage people to come to us with challenging situations, because we kind of have fun with that type of thing. It's a big pride piece for us to be like, hey, listen, look what we just figured out. We got this thing done. So, I mean, when it comes to ideal clients, it does not matter. If you have something ahead of you that needs to be done, whether it's routine and it's just a lot of work, happy to do that. We get it done, and we usually get it done a lot faster and cleaner than anybody else. And if it's really complicated, you will not find another team that's more eager to help figure it out. If it's going sideways for you, we love that. We thrive in chaos and in really high tension and high pressure situations. Our team does extremely well. So it all across the board. If you need construction services or industrial services that we provide with insulation, scaffolding, access, we are the guys. We don't care how big, how small, how complicated. You got a client that you're trying to, if your client is really hard to get along with, and you really gotta make a show, we're good for it.
Awesome. And Shawn, what is the best way for them to get a hold of you?
The best way for anyone to get a hold of me is either email or through, honestly, through our BD team, either through sales or through Elizabeth, our business development manager. So you can email her at elizabeth@shield-group.ca, or you can email me at sean@shield-group.ca, or just call the general line right on our website.
Amazing. And Shawn, you've had some amazing success in an incredible short period of time. And I know that it came with nothing but a ton of hard work behind it. I know it wasn't luck. Do you have one piece of growth advice for the entrepreneurs listening right now who are inspired by you?
Just do it. People get so caught up in what could trip them up or what might be a detriment. Who cares? So you fall down, whatever. It is what it is. You learn from that stuff. You usually, it's a fool me once kind of world, right? People don't forget, so go at it, like face it as hard and fast as possible, and just do it. If you don't know how to do it anyway, and learn. Just learn while you're doing it. Once you start, it's a do or die situation usually in business. So like, chances are it's in you. You just don't know it's there. Just do it.
Just do it. I love it, Shawn. This has been episode 134 of the Business Development Podcast. We've been graced by CEO of Shield Group of Companies, Shawn Sooley, for the amazing education on not just business, but business in Atlantic Canada. I appreciated that immensely, Shawn. Until next time, we'll catch you on the flip side.
This has been the Business Development Podcast with Kelly Kennedy. Kelly has 15 years in sales and business development experience within the Alberta oil and gas industry and founded his own business development firm in 2020. His passion and his specialization is in customer relationship generation and business development. The show is brought to you by Capital Business Development, your business development specialists. For more, we invite you to the website at www.capitalbd.ca. See you next time on the Business Development Podcast.